Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining our launch webinar. One of the managed services that we'll be offering is managed security. Among other offerings on the managed security is SoC as a service. Okay. This service is actually to empower businesses with a 24/7 threat detection and incident response. And why, as Procom, have we introduced this service to the market? Having spoken with customers of all sizes and maturity levels, we realize that customers are often frustrated with lack of enterprise-grade security that is available to them, that will enable them to protect themselves at a reasonable price point. The problem obviously is due to the cyber risks that are difficult to see and quantify and can also be expensive to manage. It's difficult sometimes to have full visibility of vulnerable points without a continuous monitoring, detection, and response solution. In some of the conversations that we have with customers, when we start asking them these questions, how would you know if a server was under attack or already it has been breached? How would you know if a personal-owned computer was attacking the network from inside? How would you know if a bad actor logged into your email from an unexpected location? So these are some of the questions that obviously you don't get answers from most of our customers. And the challenge has always been they don't have the technologies that are actually needed to enable them to continuously monitor for the threats. Detecting, investigating, and responding to cyber threats hasn't been more critical like it is now. To do so, an organization will actually require a 24/7 security operations center, which is actually critical for an effective cybersecurity strategy. As an organization, you need to defend the attack surface that is rapidly expanding against the adversaries that are increasingly well-armed and motivated. Maybe to answer the questions, what is a Security Operations Center, or SoC for short? This is a service that we are providing where our highly trained security analysts and engineers use the latest technology guided by outcome-based processes to keep your environment safe from threats. How do we deliver this SoC as a service offering? So there are three components that are actually required for one to effectively build a SoC. It's the people, the processes, and the technology. So on the technology, we actually have got a platform, which is the best of breed platform that is powered by Secion's AI MSSP. This is actually the foundation of our SoC as a service. It combines all the essential technologies into a single integrated platform that ingests telemetry and data from all your security tools. And then we apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate and improve the time-consuming and complex critical processes in order for us to effectively detect or threats, do hunting, investigation, and response. This platform actually force multiplies our security operation teams in that it quickly and reliably converts all the data into manageable number of validated high fidelity security incidents that warrant our investigation. Then the second thing is processes. Our operational processes are actually built on discipline needed to effectively secure your environment. And we operate from these processes. They are both automated and human. And our processes are actually also based on the NIST framework. And lastly is the people. We have got a team of security experts that provide the security oversight 24/7 and responds to events as they occur in your environment. This nimble team of analysts leverages our platform and processes to monitor, identify, triage, and remediate threats that would be lacking in your environment. And lastly, what is the business value? How of actually subscribing to this service? The main goal is actually to put you back in control with a modern approach to threat detection and response. We deliver all the benefits of having your own fully staffed 24/7 security operations center without the cost and the complexity of building, staffing, resourcing, and operating one, or the constraints of vendor lock-in. Our analysts will operate as an extension to your team by argumenting and filling gaps you may have in monitoring, investigation, or investigating threats 24/7 and helping you remediate them. All this is provided as a service with a simple pay-as-you-go subscription, and there is no vendor lock-in. And one of the most important things in a security operations center, or the goal of a security operations center, is to reduce the mean time to identify and the mean time to respond to threats. And we also ensure that you continuously meet your compliance requirements. So basically, that's what SoC as a service is. Now I'll obviously hand over to Sekion, who have built in the platform that actually powers our SoC. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, thank you. So as Twanga pointed out, the team has built a solution. Twanga, you have to stop sharing your screen so I can share it. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So
Perfect.
as Twanga pointed out, that the solution is all about like covering your continuous real-time monitoring and proactive threat detections and stopping the threat, that mean time to detection and mean time to response. Those are very critical. And especially with the threats which we are kind of facing today, you have to make sure those sophisticated threats are taken care well in advance before they have caused the damage or they have exfiltrated your data or encrypted your files and all that. So that's where the solution comes in the picture. And the people, process, and technology, what was just discussed, that is really critical. So that's something we are going to cover, and we'll definitely like the attendees to ask any questions they have. A little bit about the Secyan. Secyan is a company which was started with the single goal in mind that we are going to do a comprehensive cybersecurity platform for digital era. And knowing that most of the businesses are going to be digitalized, well, we started around more than 6 years back, and then we had seen that even the biggest organization with all kind of the spending on the cybersecurity were not able to detect those threats into timely fashions. Most of the time they were hearing it from outside, or it was already like kind of like a media news before it kind of came to their attention. And basically what it was lacking is not that they didn't have the budget, the papers, but they didn't have the proper set of a solution or a platform which can pull it all together. So that is the genesis of the platform, what we have done. And it's not that easy to do what we have done, because most of the people will like to do a feature product because that's easy to do, and then you can get in the market and start making money immediately and all that. Other thing is like how we enable our partners and customers to make sure that the solution is affordable for most of the organization, because most of the organizations are not going to be having hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of people to run their security operations center. So that's where we came from. Now we have more than actually 5,600 customers around the globe in the different sectors and all that in there. And I'll just talk about a little bit more about when we are talking about this cyber security. What is the cyber security? If you look into the big picture, you want to protect your organization. In the big picture, cyber security has only two major domains. One is cyber hygiene, and other is your CMDS, which we call it continuous real-time monitoring, proactive detections, auto-stopping of the threats and breaches. What the second domain is to know exactly what is happening in the environment in the real time, having a complete visibility of it, detecting any of the threats, and then taking care of those before they have become a serious issues in the organizations. So the hygienes, these are the products which works on the set of the rules, signatures, and policies. And these products, as long as any traffic coming to them meets those rules, signatures, and policies, either they will let it in or deny it. And the key things to keep in mind is there are the things which will come in and kind of like pretend as if they are something which are supposed to let it go. And these products will let it go because they are based on the rule, signatures, and policy. And other things will get around it because there is no rule or signatures or policy have been already defined for those. So you'll hear all these 0-day and many other things out there, or somebody credential has been stolen and so on and so forth. So things will get through them, or if there is any vulnerability, those will get exploited to get in. But that is not to say these products are not important. These products have an important role to play because they do block a lot of things, but there are certain things will get through them, and you have to realize that. And so the second domain then comes into the picture. So what the second domain is doing, if you look into, is whether you have the things, we just had the presentations by the AWS and all that. So the cloud, you might have a lot of your workload in the cloud, which are whether you use a cloud as an infrastructure, you use cloud as a platform or services running from there. You have to monitor that because a lot of people are going to be accessing the cloud directly when your employees and customers, they are going to access directly in there, and you want to make sure that those does not get exposed and all that. If you look into the last probably year or so, more of the attack has been coming on the cloud side because as more organization transition in there, it's easier to kind of like create a attack which succeeds over there. You can get pretty big kind of from the cyber criminal point of view. You can get a very big playing field to go and cause significant amount of like uh, challenge to organization and extract a lot of ransomware as well. Similarly, on-prem and data center, those are the something where you have to make sure everything is being looked at it, your corporate and all that. So same thing, your partners, when the partners are accessing your services, you have to monitor those in the real time, remote, as well as work from home, and then any mobile user accessing your services. So what the platform does it takes your log flows and identities from each one of those. It takes into the secure fashion in there. And then the platform also is really key that it has to take the data set from the cyber hygiene side. So cyber hygienes, they are creating their own set of the events and alerts, and that need to be ingested as well to give a broader perspective. Who is trying to knock your door or not getting in? What things are getting in, but they may not be exactly what they are saying they are. So that monitoring is also happening over there. So even something get in, that doesn't mean that this thing has like stopped monitoring it, because this is monitoring it also 24/7 in the real time. And then the platform, as I mentioned, it is a platform. It is not just a product. So what the platform does it has like all these log flows and identities coming in, are events coming in from the hygiene side. There are 1986 plus features which are getting extracted. They go through 26 million plus enrichment. But at the end, what it is doing is everything, whether it comes down to your like traditional view, if you look into your SIEM, your security orchestration, your user entity behavior analytics, your network behavior analytics, your threat intelligence, IDS, network traffic analysis, dynamic threat model, machine learning, and AI. All of these things are working together to first give you a comprehensive visibility of your environment life, what is happening, proactively detect any threat. In the early steps and stages, automatically you can go ahead and take action to contain those threats, or you do automatic actions or push button actions in there. And the best thing also comes out of it is not only you stopping, but you are able to meet any of the compliance requirement, your security analytics, your policy management, threat hunting, forensic, all of those things you are able to do with the platform with a click of a button. But at the end, the most important thing, what Tuanga was mentioning earlier, is your mean time to detections and the response. You want to keep that well ahead of before any damaging things start happening in your environment. If credentials are getting compromised, they are getting through over here. This thing want to detect it before they start doing the privilege escalations, or kind of start kind of doing a drop, set up a command and control center communications, start communicating with their, discover all of your asset, start kind of collecting the asset, exfiltrating, and then they put the bot for doing the demand for ransomware and all that. You don't want to have those things get to the last step where the files are kind of like going to be encrypted and demands are being made and all that in there. That is basically is is the last thing you want to see. You want to stop it in the early steps and stages. Other key things I want to point out, and that's where the Procom team have kind of like expertise, because they have been kind of like on the platform, getting the certifications and all that, playing with it. The key part for thing is you got to have the people who know it, who understand it, and they are enabled, empowered to take actions to stop those threats. So see, we have, like as I mentioned, we have more than 5,600 customers around the world. But because of the way the platform works, not a single one has been successfully ransomware. And the reason is very simple. It's not that we are doing some magic. What we are doing is all those early steps and stages which takes place for any ransomware to kind of be a meaningful, successful in there, whether they are compromising a credentials, whether escalating a privilege, creating new credentials, doing a drop for command and control center communication, discovering the asset, collecting the asset. All of those things have so much opportunity to pull that whole story together and say, this is what is happening. So that's where the platform comes into the picture, the people comes into the picture, and the process comes into the picture, that what has been empowered for that SOC team to take care of. Once they do those things in the early steps, you don't have those ransomware going through your organization. Another key part is not only kind of taking the data, also creating a closed loop to applying a policy on these hygiene system. So you keep on making them better and better and harder to get in. So that way, what happens is your continuous cybersecurity posture keeps on getting improved continuously, which is really critical for any organization. You want to make sure you are kind of like getting a better posture going forward, because threat vectors are getting more complicated, and those people who are on the attacking side are getting a lot of automation. They are putting their own machine learning and AI into the platform. They are kind of like attack platform as well. Okay. Definitely trends and all that means I just want to mention something quickly, that there are too many tools. If you keep on using too many tools, definitely you will not have enough experts to go and take care of those and understand those into the context and all that. But the biggest thing what is happening is sophistication of the cyber attackers. Those are growing, they are automating, they are using machine learning and AI. So if you look into what the SolarWind or Kaseya or Microsoft Hafnium or any other attacks, what is happening is they are coming, they are learning about your environment, and then most of those organizations are who got impacted after that, they did not have way of detecting those threats into the early steps. And that is really critical, that if you don't have a platform to detect those threats into the early steps, you are going to be compromised. So you want to make sure that there is a platform which monitors everything and detects those into the real time. And that's basically where the machine learning and AI comes in, because amount of the data any organization with the like a few hundred people's generated, those are billions of data points which are being kind of created, and you have to track those, and that cannot be tracked by the human. That you want machine to track those and then take care of those already in there. Okay, so put those into perspective where you are taking the actions. Security as a service is growing. This is something is like where you have a Procom team, they have developed expertise and they are ready to kind of like take that services. Instead of you building a big organization and having 24/7 operations, they are ready to take that on and help you kind of like co-manage it or let them kind of do it for you all together as well. Continuous growth of compliance and regulation. This is something is even going to keep on growing. So it's not only that it has been growing, it is continuously going to keep on growing. You will get all those like regional kind of compliance requirements will keep on coming in there. Definitely, there is not enough of the security qualified professionals you can go and hire. And then depth of the perimeter, and especially with the work from home, with the COVID, this have accelerated really fast. And number of devices you have in the environment, those has been growing, and they are going to even accelerate it. They have accelerated in the last year or so because of the COVID situation, but they are even going to more accelerations will keep on happening there. So these are the some of the trend, but one of the things is like the ransomware as a service is a something has been very big because now the attackers, they don't have to build that tool chain. They can go and just rent it, ransomware as a service from some hosted facility, and they can go and attack it. And now the attacker does not only have to go after big fish to get like multi-million-dollar payment. Even if they get smaller payments in hundreds of thousands, sometimes $50,000 or so, they are still going to be profitable because now they are able to go after many of the organizations quickly because of the ransomware service efforts in there. So their ROI is kind of like pretty better, even if they go after a smaller guy. So don't just kind of think about that, hey, if I'm a small guy, nobody is going to come after me. Just to give you a perspective, there are more than 10,000 kind of like ransomware attacks happen just in the US, and around the globe, those numbers can be like 5 times more happening each and every day. So that's something to keep in mind. And those attacks are now have gone down to the even the smaller enterprises, as well as sometimes even the university professors are getting attack on their labs and all that, and they are kind of asking university to pay for it because their research papers and lab results are getting stolen and are encrypted and so on and so forth. One of the key things I wanted to point out, this is where your ProCom team is kind of taking care of the things. So if how the ProCom differentiate, if you go with any traditional MSSP, they're using some legacy product and multiple bolt-on products in there. What happened is their operation is very complex. They need a lot of staff and never able to kind of understand all those things together. The visibility is a challenge. Threat accuracy is a challenge. So you end up getting a lot of alerts and you have to look and waste your time in there. Automation is another big challenge. Pricing is another big challenge for those kind of approach, those people who are offering that way. And the biggest challenge is the understanding of the context and situational awareness. If you don't have a context and situational awareness, no matter how many people you put it in there, you will never be able to pull the story together. So if you look into any of these attacks with the automated attacks, they do not have to go and succeed everything. They are not going to be doing it into hour or minute and so on and so forth. They can just kind of first go and create a foothold and then wait. And then next thing is kind of comes in there. So if you look into the solar wind, what happened? Those things happens over many months. Microsoft, if you look into their president in the Senate, when he said that they have been having thousands of people have been looking through their code and understanding their whole organization for more than 6 months. For 6 months, Microsoft did not detect it that, hey, there is 1,000 people looking into their code and all that. And basically what it is, because they don't have a context, these guys have blended into their everyday activities. So that's something without context, that's what will happen. You will not be able to find it out. So using those traditional products, that's where you run into. So with the Sekian platform and the people and the processes, what the ProCom has put together, this is the challenge they solve it. And they solve it in an effective way. So it is like the ROI. So it's not only the efficacy of the cybersecurity is the best, but efficiency and ROI for the end customer comes out to be the best as well. So that's what the Procom solution offering is, just in the nutshell, you know. How these things works, definitely, as I pointed out, you are collecting all of those like activities, what is happening in your environment, whether it's on-prem, cloud, remote access. You have all the logs are getting collected, which is OS application process services. All the flows are being connected as well. So this is really critical that, you know, not everything will generate a log. Sometimes even the logs can be enhanced with knowing where the transactions are happening, how many transactions, and so on and so forth. So the flow is pretty important, and you have to take those in the real time. Identity is not only the human, but the host application services identity is also taking place. Same thing with the cloud, whether you are using cloud as an infrastructure platform or SaaS, it is really critical to know your log flows and identity to give you exactly which application service user host doing what, when, from where to where all those things are happening, to bring that perspective of like whether that is normal or abnormal. Similarly, we talked about the taking the input from your existing like security systems, whether they are generating events and alerts, put into the broad perspective in there. And then any endpoints you are monitoring, whether you have your existing agent or you can use the second platform agent as well. So that's where that 1986 features are extracted over here. There are around 26 million plus enrichment. But the key point after this platform runs in the real time. So what happens is this is a microservices Lambda architecture platform. So think about it, the fast big data platform, but it is running in the real time. So all of these, after those extracting the features and it's in-memory feature enrichment of those 26 million, basically what it is saying, which user, which host they are coming, what application they are accessing, how much they are accessing, if they are in the private like IPs using a public IP using, where the services are, have I seen these services access in the past, and so on and so forth. Those are enrichments are over here. Are they coming from known bad kind of like IP? They're going to the URL, which is already bad URL and all that. All those things are kind of enriched first, you know. Then after that, these three engines get into the actions. Machine learning is looking for a behavior in your own organization. AI is looking for any shift into the background space with the sparse noise reductions with 146 algorithm and 109 different models are in the actions all the time. And then dynamic threat model is looking for what is no. The biggest thing is all of these things are producing their independent result in the real time. AI engine pulls it together and say, okay, in this context and perspective, I mean, right now, what is being reported currently, what has been seen in the past in this organization, and what is happening around the globe with the threat intelligence. If all of these things combined together, a alert comes out, then a automated remediation policy engine is called to generate the policy to contain that threat or eliminate that threat. And that can be policy going on your firewall, identity management system, a process getting killed, file getting quarantined, or endpoint getting quarantined. All of those things can be happening, or any one of those can be happening in there. If it does not become an alert, then events which were generated over here, they will become a context for the future. So they are kept in the memory. Advanced real-time correlation engine, nothing, but this is a command and control engine where all these engines, whatever they have done, it has been made to make human to understand it, human to take actions and apply their expertise, what they want to do with these things going forward and what they don't want to see as well. So that you have complete command and control center. That's where you are taking a decision instead of putting a big army in there. All those billions of data point per second has been processed to create that results for you to take a next set of the decisions are directed to how to kind of like tune it itself for the ML point of view. Okay. And security analytics gives you the complete view of your whole organization, what is happening in there. You can see all your applications, services, how they're performing, who's accessing what are the challenges are there. But at the same time, all of your compliance report, your forensic, your investigations, all of those things can be done over here itself. And then it generates your continuous compliance and reporting. So from the platform, you get your comprehensive real-time monitoring, comprehensive visibility, proactive threat detections, automated real-time containment eliminations. Either you do automated or push button, and at the same time, you can also do the continuous compliance reporting and those things, okay? So definitely I covered a lot. So I know, Tom, you want to go next?
Sure. Let me
I'm
share,
going to
Chandra.
stop it so you can share rest of them.
Okay, you seeing my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Ertl from Sekion. I apologize for my background. I think it's time for a more powerful computer. I'm breaking up a bit. So I'm just going to expand a little bit on what Chandra and Tawengo said. So the platform that Chandra was discussing, we call AI SIM. And as you can see over here in the middle, with it, you get SIM and MDR services, which Chandra discussed a bit, and we call that AI MSSP, and you can provide SoC services with it, as Procom will be doing. In addition, there's an EDR agent that you can add, and platform will become what we call AI XDR. You can use that EDR agent, or you can also work with any of the commercially available EDR agents out there. So I just want to highlight a few of the key points that Chandra went through. Again, we do have a very powerful machine learning and AI engine. And basically, that machine learning engine is very important in terms of something that's been discussed here, which is how we detect threats. You can detect them by a signature, which is how a lot of things work out there in the marketplace, or you can detect them by behavioral. And in the case of a zero-day malware where there is no signature, without behavioral modeling, it's going to get through. So our platform, as Chandra alluded to, is based on behavioral modeling. That all those logs and flows and user information that's been collected, that machine learning builds a model for each host, a behavioral model, and says, okay, this host typically logs in from this location at this time, talks to these servers, copies files of this size. So it builds a baseline, and then it starts to look for differences. So if all of a sudden that person logs in from a different location at a different time, goes to a blacklisted site, does a scan, does something that it's never done before, that starts to now build what we call an alert. So all those threat indicators get combined together and correlated into an alert, and we start to build confidence that something might be going on here. And once we've seen enough confidence, we're going to raise an alert. With that, as this bullet says, we can actually remediate, and we have 3 levels of remediation. The first is, in any alert, it will tell you what needs to be done. Push this rule to a firewall, shut down this account, block this port. In that alert, there's actually will be a remediation button that you can push, and it will take those actions right then and there. You have to have given the platform permission. You have to have given it access to your firewall or access to your AD. But if you have, it can do remediation right then and there. The third level, when you get confident enough with the system, is the system can actually automatically remediate, meaning you can tell it from now on, whenever you see this type of alert, let's say we've seen a compromised credential 5 times, everyone's been real. From now on, automatically remediate. Don't wait for any human intervention. So you can detect and remediate as quickly as possible. That's, as Chandra was alluding to, that's vitally important, that things not be able to wander around your environment, figure out what they want to do and take action. You have to remediate them early and quickly. I mean, that's again the key to the behavioral modeling. The fact that a malware is going to have certain behaviors, it's going to possibly brute force. It's going to escalate privilege. It's probably going to do some scans. It's going to go out to a command and control site, i.e. a blacklisted site. Those behaviors are going to happen early in the process. And by following those and tracking those, we can detect and then remediate quickly long before it ever gets to a ransom state, to an exfiltration state. Another important point is you don't want to have to spend a lot of time setting up rules and policies. So you want to have that built into the system so that when it powers up, it knows what it's looking for. So I'll show you in a second all the different threat models that are built into the system. So bottom line, you have a very powerful solution here that tries to see everything, detect things that matter, meaning cut down on false positives, and then be able to stop that threat. Here's a quick look at the threat, all the different threat models. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see you have all your different cyber crimes and insider threats, cloud security, denial of service. Again, I'm not going to go through all these, but you can see these are all built into the system. And again, so as soon as you power up the box, the platform, these things start to be monitored for and detected, and you're going to start to get activity fairly quickly. If you have our EDR agent involved, then you'll start to get these threat models as well. So along with all the additional stuff that is monitoring in your networking environment, you'll also get this on the endpoint with our EDR agent. So one thing I do want to just quickly go through an example here to sort of show you the power of the platform and how it works. And again, back to this behavioral modeling. So here's a screenshot of our actual in-house environment. It's over a 24-hour period. So what I want to highlight is these three boxes here. You can see on the top that first 22 million is all the events, all the activity, all the logs, flows, user information that have been collected in 24 hours in our environment. Out of that, the system captured 88,000, more than 88,000 threat indicators. With a lot of solutions in the marketplace, all of those might be presented to a SoC team. Clearly, there's no way you can keep up with 88,000 threats in a day. You couldn't keep up with 800 or 900 threats in a day. So, it's very important that those be correlated. That's a very important word for me. Correlated, so you only have to see a smaller number of actual alerts that pulled all that information together. You didn't have to have someone over here say, oh, I saw a scan, someone over here say, I saw a blacklisted site access. Are they related? That's all pulled together for you. So with all those 88,000 threat indicators, 4 alerts were presented. In those 4 alerts, there's going to be probably thousands of actual threat indicators. And actually, some of those threat indicators, some of those 88,000 are in what we call minor alerts, alerts that aren't far enough along that we actually think it's time to take any action yet, but that we're tracking. So a lot of that activity is things that we're monitoring, and then when it gets to a certain point, we raise the alert and say, okay, it's time to do something. So when you click on that number 4, you go into an alert screen. I happen to pick on some 0 days here because I think those are interesting to look at. So this is an alert screen. What you get a high-level description of what an alert looks like, who it was, when it was, and then you can go click on these and see the details. So I clicked on the bottom one. And here now is, again, this is to me a very good encapsulation of the power of the system. You get the high-level description up top, but down below here, all this activity was correlated by the software in as close to real time as possible, meaning things don't happen, a threat doesn't, or an attack doesn't happen in seconds. It could happen in days and weeks, as Chandra alluded to. So all this activity, in excess of 1,000 different things, were all correlated together by the AI and ML engines and the rest of the system, and said, okay, this is all related. We're going to track it, and we're going to see if we've seen enough to make sure that there's a threat. All these different types of activities, and every one of these can be drilled down into. So you can click on any one of those activities on the left. It'll show you all the examples, so you can see unusual number of incoming connections. Again, we track what size files you copy typically, how many connections you make, and if you deviate from that, that becomes a threat indicator and starts to be tracked. So you could have clicked on it, any one of these, go down, and then you can go to each individual one as well. And this, again, it's across time. So this particular activity took, a few months from when the first threat indicator, which means, anything abnormal happened with that host till the attack actually happened. And you can see here's a graphical representation. So, way back in the beginning here, just normal activities were happening, nothing that was malicious enough to raise a threat, but was still being tracked. Right here at this point, these blue and red lines are confidence and severity. When we get to 50% confidence, we say, okay, you need to do something. We've seen enough. It's time to take action. So right here, again, monitoring, the software is monitoring every day, every activity, and all of a sudden, boom, we see an alert. You can mouse over and actually see on that day exactly what happened. So some combination of these things on that day gave the system enough information to say, there's a real threat here, you need to go take action. So again, you can then go, you can remediate and make sure that this is, the attack is stopped well before it achieves its goal. So high-level overview, the things that have been pressed here by Tawengwa and Chandra, the MTTR, MTTI, I mean, that's vital that you're tracking things, that you catch them as quickly as possible, and again, before they can actually take the actions, before it can get to a point where it starts encrypting or exfiltrating. So that's vitally important, and that's what we believe all the AI, ML, and the engines that we built into this platform provide you. The fact that humans don't have to be doing that correlation, it's being done as fast as possible in software. And so you're going to get that detection and then the ability to remediate. Compliance is built in. There are compliance reports for NIST, HIPAA, PCI, everything you would need. It's real time. You can press the button and generate that report instantly. So, in general, what this does is helps reduce the CapEx and OpEx for both the provider, the Procom, and for the customer. So you're going to get the best possible service at the best possible price. That's the overview. I'll pass it back to Tawengwa and Becky Temba, and if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chandra and Tom. They're connecting from the US, so we had to wake them up while they were still sleeping. We appreciate you joining us. Just bringing this down, bringing it home. Many organizations we have engaged with have been looking at a security operations center, some requirements around the SIM, also due to some regulatory requirements. What we have seen in general is that building a SIM or a SoC infrastructure has proved to be very expensive to most of our customers, especially in our region, considering the size of the organizations that we have. And to just put up your own SIM infrastructure or SoC will cost you anything upwards of $300,000 to run, from what we have seen. So we've spent a lot of time as Procom investigating which platform would actually suit our environment. We know you, our customers, very well. We know what your size of your infrastructure and so on. And we have taken almost a year to identify this platform as the platform that would work very well for our clients. As I said, those who have even invested in these SIM and SoC platforms, most of them have actually failed to get full value out of them because it is also very expensive to actually resource that SoC in terms of hiring the personnel to actually run the SoC or the SIM. So this is actually where subscribing to a SoC as a service is very compelling for you. You will not only enjoy the full benefits of a SoC at a fraction of a cost, but you have also us as Procom, as your partners who actually understand your environment. So we're looking forward to you, our clients, engaging with us so that you can actually subscribe to the SoC. Just to answer a few questions that I know may be pending. we're going to deliver this SoC in two models as a cloud service, which means you can subscribe to already existing cloud that we are running with Sekion. This cloud is already live, so you can immediately subscribe. And we're also happy to help you maybe run a proof of value if you need to convince the executives about this solution, or we can run a proof of value or proof of concept with you. Also being cognizant that there are some organizations that may be sensitive in terms of running security infrastructure in the cloud. Although we well know that there's actually no company data that actually leaves the country, because of what we deploy a collector at your environment, and only the metadata is actually what we send to the cloud. We have gone a step further as Procom. We will deploy a second node in each country. So a second node in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Botswana, so that exclusively all your data actually remains in country. That is if you have got any concerns around data residency. So that we're doing, and all the nodes should come up by end of this month. So we already live offering the SoC as a service from the cloud, and this will be neatly integrated with the nodes that will be deployed in each country. Thank you so much, Tom and Chandra. Tawenga, I don't know if there is any questions that you may want to pose or that our customers have posed. There is one interesting one here. It says, what do you really think happened with Facebook earlier this week? Maybe you'll answer that one, Chandra, later. Are there any other questions, Tawenga, that we relevant to the SoC that have been posed that we may want to give to our panelists?
Yeah, I see there is one question which is saying that is it appliance-based or software-based? So it's already answered by Becky that you have the options. So he's offering SoC as a service, but if a customer, if you wanted to kind of like have your own on-site deployment, the SoC team, Becky's SoC team can also do the 24/7 monitoring of that solution as well. So from the customer point of view, just think about that. This is a service offering which you can either have everything on your on-prem, or you can just get the service delivered with the virtual appliance being put in your environment for collecting the data, and then taking care of all the processing, whether it's on-prem or in their cloud itself. So just keep that in mind, and that's what Becky was answering, that he's kind of having in those 3 countries, he's having local kind of processing, so you then have to even leave the country boundaries as well. So that's something critical. Other part of the question is, can you share the architectures? Yes, definitely we can share it. And the key point is like, hey, do we ingest the data? Because how we integrate. So there are more than 700 plus the integration point, because that is something which was developed by, discussed by Tuangwa in the beginning, that we are a vendor agnostic solutions. And when we are talking about AI XDR, what you are getting in the solution is not just like some EDR plus something else in there. If you have your own EDR, we will even work with that, but you are getting your SIEM, SOAR, UBA, NDR, and then ML, AI, dynamic threat model, threat intelligence. All of those things are coming in. And the 700 plus devices, their question was like Cisco ASA, and then Sophos, you might have Palo Alto, you might have FortiGate, as well as like any other vendors. All of those integration, not only to just ingest the data, as Tuangwa had mentioned about the based on the API, but also taking actions as we are finding the things in there. And those are not only on these physical, but virtual as well as the cloud. They have their own kind of firewalls and all that. Those are also integrated and the actions goes on them as well. So that's something you have to keep in mind. And similarly, identity management system, whether you are using Azure AD or you are using AD or any other things, those actions are happening. Not only we kind of keeping a track of all those, but also taking actions on those, whether it's a virtual as well as like plants-based solutions. Second question was already answered by Becky, that do you offer proof of concept? Yes, definitely. As he mentioned, the proof of concepts are offered where you can see it live in your environment. That Becky had already answered. Any additional questions, feel free to ask. Or Tuangwa, if you want to add something, just please feel free to add it.
Okay, thanks, Chandra. Yeah, on the second issue of proof of concept, that is very important. I don't think there is any organization that will actually consume the service before they can actually validate the managed services provider if what they are offering is actually a perfect fit for their environment. So yes, we encourage our customers to actually do a proof of concept, or sometimes they could call it proof of value, with use cases that we can actually agree on to determine the success of that proof of concept. And then the other thing, I think a question that maybe some people might be having is the complexity of integration and the time frame it takes from the time a customer signs a contract with Procom to full coverage. So, like Chandra had said, I mean, this is a simple platform. Within a day, we should actually get you seeing at least some visibility in your environment as we actually integrate with all your security tools to get all the telemetry that is required for us to actually have comprehensive full visibility. And one thing I mentioned was the payment model. This is a pay-as-you-go model. And I would also like to add that in terms of the offering, this is actually based on the number of assets, as opposed to quite a lot of other offerings that are actually based on events per second or number of logs logged in a day or in a month, and so forth. So you find that those modules actually become too expensive, especially with a lot of data or telemetry that is being logged. A lot of kinds will end up not logging some of the information just because it's becoming now too expensive. But we don't care about that. We've got a data lake, so we actually integrate with any device, get all the telemetry so that we get all the full visibility and at a fixed cost. So you don't have to worry about the issues of saying, what if my data grows and so forth? This is at a fixed cost. So I think that is very important to actually also mention.
Thank you. Thank you, Tuangwa. Chandra, did you hear anything about what happened to Facebook? One of our interested.
Looking to the Facebook, it went down because of the BGP. When they were doing the upgrade and the BGP routes were all withdrawn, so everybody kind of stopped communicating with them. And you know, the internet world, everything is very well connected. So if you get off grid, so everybody is internet is nothing but a grid. You know, I came from the telecom background, especially working for Juniper, doing those routers, and before that, the industry. If your BGP routes get withdrawn, it is kind of like it takes a lot of time to propagate it back, and you come on the grid and join the grid because nobody let you join and publish all of your routes like in one go. So it takes a lot of time. So that's a kind of like a pretty big kind of a task. So you don't want to kind of have that situation happen, because if you get off the grid, then even if you put all the efforts, everything is up and running, you cannot join, because everybody is not going to have you bombard them and say, hey, you can join immediately, because they will not even insert those route into their peering, So that's like a really challenging thing. So just keep in mind that if you are a peering kind of like a provider, or a customer who is doing the peering, keep in mind that if you do a mess up, you might be out for like almost like 6 to 24 hours, because all those kind of like name resolution get taken away and all that,
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't anything to do with the data breach. Thanks so much for that insight and all the insight that has been given today. We unfortunately have run out of time. We knew that the cybersecurity aspect, because of how critical it is, there's going to be a lot of conversation around this. I hope I'm not cutting off any other burning question, but this is actually an introduction of what we're going to be doing as Procom going forward. We wanted you, our customers, to have a view of what is happening. The landscape is changing. COVID has accelerated a number of technology innovations and changes in a very short space of time. Cybersecurity threats have grown. The surface attack surfaces have also grown. Now people are working from home. There was a question here that how can we protect people working from home? And this is what we are talking about. So we are there. We have to keep up with all these changes, and these services are there to help you keep up with all these changes and challenges that are there. So I would like to thank the panelists from SoC and First Distribution representing AWS, and also from Sekion. We will be scheduling other sessions as follow-up, specifically on SoC, specifically on AWS and Cisco networking. And please, if you may follow our LinkedIn page, you will see all the adverts there. So we're gonna ask Chandra and Tom to join us for another session in a month's time, and where we're gonna go in deeper to help you protect your organizations when it comes to cyber threats. I'd like to thank all our partners, our clients, whom we consider to be our partners. We have been in a journey since 2010. We have grown together. Everywhere, all these solutions we're introducing, we want to give you the best, and we're always there to service you. So I'm hoping that starting from here, you're going to engage with us concerning your particular environment, and we'll be able to propose and work with you to give you a solution that actually works for you. So you can now satisfy all these requirements for SoC, for adopting the cloud, and also managing your networks with Procom managed services. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.